Welcome to the deep dive.
Yeah.
Today we're doing something a bit different.
Mm-hmm.
A listener sent us this really fascinating clip. It's from a podcast called Real Stories Unplunged.
Okay.
And the episode, The Day I Got Circumcised, dives into something super personal. Circumcision.
Yeah, very personal. And, it really hits on how some experiences, even really common ones, just don't get talked about much.
Exactly. So our mission, sort of, for this deep dive is to explore the personal side of it, the impact, the reflections shared in this clip, give you a window into one person's story.
Absolutely. It's about understanding that personal journey.
And the hosts over there, Kilroy and Transcript the Truth, they have this great, very conversational vibe.
Right. Makes it accessible.
Totally. And they jump right into Kilroy's memory of his own circumcision as a kid. So, okay, let's unpack this a bit.
Let's do it.
Kilroy remembers being just a young pup, right, taken to a clinic.
Mm-hmm.
And the image that sticks with him, huge injection needles that look like they were the size of my arm.
Wow. Yeah, just hearing that, you can instantly feel the fear, can't you? Especially for a child.
Oh, absolutely.
It really makes you think about how those early medical things, they get magnified by not understanding, by that kid-level anxiety, even if it's routine for adults.
Totally. He literally says it felt like walking into a horror movie.
Oh,
Because as a kid, you don't grasp the why, you just know what you're told, and in this case, it sounded terrifying.
right. And Transcript the Truth, the other host, he really responds with empathy there, acknowledges, this isn't your average dinner table conversation.
Yeah, that acknowledgement feels important.
It does. It kind of opens the door, makes it okay to talk about something that's often private, maybe loaded with different feelings or cultural stuff.
Makes you wonder why some common things stay so quiet.
Exactly, why the silence around certain experiences.
So Transcript asks the obvious question, I guess, the one you might be thinking too. Did you cry?
And Kilroy just says,
Yes. Straight up. Said he was ready to bolt out of there.
oh, I bet. Just pure vulnerability in that moment.
But then here's where the story takes a turn,
Yeah.
right? He talks about a nurse, a calming nurse, who managed to reassure him, but mostly through expression and hand gestures. Not even words, really.
Ah, that's powerful, that nonverbal kindness.
It really is. It speaks volumes, doesn't it? About how simple human connection, just that reassurance, can cut through fear, especially when you feel totally lost and scared.
It really does. And, connecting that outwards, it underlines how crucial empathy is. That reassurance, particularly with kids in medical settings, small acts leaving a big imprint.
You remember those things, don't you?
Definitely. So, okay, the procedure happens. What's the feeling after? Still terror.
No, that's the shift. He said his main feeling was just being alive and well.
Huh. Relief, maybe.
Relief, yeah, but also he called it a rite of passage, which is a big leap from horror movie.
That is a fascinating shift. From terror to significance, Transcript the Truth jumps on this, right? Uses that analogy.
Yeah, the conquering a dragon one.
Which is a great way to put it. It captures that feeling of having faced something huge, something scary, even if it wasn't your choice to face it. Like you processed it differently afterwards.
And Kilroy totally ran with that feeling. He said it was like, look at me, I survived the giant needle.
Yeah.
And he genuinely felt like more of a man than the other kids his age because of it.
Interesting. So that sense of accomplishment, even tied to something scary, it becomes part of building your sense of, resilience, self-efficacy.
Seems like it. Transcript calls it a badge of honor.
A badge of honor, like standing a bit taller inside, maybe, even if nobody else sees it. It's about how we make meaning out of what happens to us.
Which brings Kilroy back to that surprising point.
Yeah.
This really frightening thing somehow ended up feeling like an achievement.
It's quite a turnaround in the narrative.
Definitely. And Transcript connects this, shares a little story about someone named Kalen noticing a change in someone's walk.
Right, using it as a metaphor, sort of.
Yeah, like all kinds of experiences, big or small, shape us in ways we might not expect. It broadens it out.
That's a good point. It moves beyond just this specific event to that bigger idea, how life just molds us piece by piece.
Which is maybe why Kilroy then adds that important disclaimer. Yeah. Look, circumcision isn't for everyone. It's not a universal thing, but it is part of many people's stories.
And that's key, isn't it? Acknowledging the variety of experiences without judgment, just stating a fact for many individuals.
Transcript agrees, saying, it's all about embracing our unique journeys, which feels like a good summary of their take.
Very inclusive, acceptance of different paths.
And in that spirit, they actually invite their listeners, if you have a story about this, share it on their socials in the comments.
That's quite an invitation. Actively encouraging dialogue on a topic that's often kept private, trying to break down that silence or taboo, maybe.
Seems like it. And Kilroy's final thought in their chat is pretty resonant, too. He says something like, even scary things can become part of who we are.
That's a powerful takeaway, really, how we integrate difficult stuff, maybe even trauma, into our life story, how it shapes us in unexpected ways.
Yeah. And Transcript just gives him props for his wordplay, which is a nice light touch to end on.
So this whole deep dive into Kilroy's experience via Real Stories Unplunged, it really does highlight how differently people process the same kind of event.
Totally. It underscores why sharing these stories and listening to them has value, trying to understand those different paths.
Indeed. And it kind of leaves you, the listener, maybe mulling over a bigger question, right?
Which is,
How do those challenging childhood experiences, the daunting ones, the ones that maybe even felt traumatic at the time, how do they ultimately weave into our adult selves, our identity, perhaps in ways we don't always consciously recognize?
thinking about the lasting echo of our own stories.
Exactly. How those narratives continue to shape the people we become.